That's the next most fun thing you can do.
Welcome to Movement in Person. And if you're online, welcome as well.
Glad you're here.
Okay, so tonight we're going to start out with an icebreaker. And the icebreaker question is... What is a favorite memory of you being brave?
Like I have more than Eddie. What? Abby, what is happening in the hallway?
You like taking this huge snake
Ew.
out of a barn and
Yeah.
got rid of our bats and like.
Okay, catching those bats.
Abby's so brave that none of her things seem brave to herself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's normal for Abby.
Wow. Wow.
I can't
Anyone else?
Being pregnant is a brave move.
No.
So,
Anyone else?
What was the question?
What is your favorite moment of you being brave?
Your favorite?
Or a favorite?
Y'all ever ride roller coasters?
I went rappelling once, and you guys know that I am definitely afraid of heights.
Oh yeah, you tell that story a lot.
Proud.
Skydiving.
He's
Well,
proud.
I don't need to elaborate.
He's proud of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm proud of
it is
it.
what it is.
Let him tell us.
Way to be brave, Jared!
Overcame my fear.
Yay!
And now you can use it as a teaching point in all your sermons.
Anyone else? If you don't have an answer to that.
How about a roller coaster?
What about a roller coaster?
He's like, ain't nothing.
In order to feel brave,
Like
you have
favorite
to have
memory
felt
about a roller
fear.
coaster?
What is something that you've always wanted to do but you're too afraid of?
Too personal.
It can be a fun concept.
Relatable.
So scary.
Just kidding.
Always wanted to fly like Peter Pan, but I'm too afraid because it's not possible.
Oh, like trapeze stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's super cool and it looks super fun, but not as much as it looks super scary.
You have to be the middleman and they just throw you around. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but the other person that gets hot.
But I still have to grab it too.
No, they have to grab
No,
you.
I
but
know.
just always have them grab your legs so that it's not your job and also you have to do
Yeah,
it.
so if they drop you, you go head first.
Well, there's a net. It's fine.
I'm so afraid.
Something scary.
Brain surgery would be cool, but I don't really have the skills to do that. So.
Oh, you doing brain surgery. I thought you were saying good brain surgery done. And I was like, okay.
No, I want to see that. Yeah.
You might actually have more skills
I
than
have
I do.
dissected the
Oh my
You've
god.
at least seen like.
I would like to preach someday.
I want to preach.
Rude, Jared. Are you judging us for talking to people?
I'm also a
It's Joseph.
He's not here yet.
I've wanted to skydive, but that is terrifying.
Oh, I want to do that. I just don't have money. Oh, it's stimmy checks!
Let's go skydiving.
Nope, I'm terrified.
Yeah, I almost want, that's probably one of my real ones.
Oh, no, I just haven't signed up yet.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for it either.
Terrifying. And then we watched The Bachelor and the girl just face planted. That would be
Hey, go do it. For a little chocolate.
Ooh, I feel like cage diving with Great White Shark.
Oh, but you're in a cage, so isn't it even scary?
Okay, but Great Whites are a whole different
That's
story.
a
Like
fair.
in South Africa. My dad
They'll
was
attack the cage.
Yeah, but you're in it. So
What
like
if
as
they
long
break
as
it?
your arm's
Have
not
you
like
seen
digging
the
around.
movie like 40 Below or
Are you
whatever it's
with, are you
called?
with Nicolas Cage or you're in a cage?
If I was with Nicolas Cage, I would not be afraid.
He just punched those sharks.
Yeah,
in the
we're
nose and it'll be
safe.
fine.
You poke them in the eyes.
Ooh, yeah.
Nicolas Cage?
He
Yeah.
he'd take care
Yeah,
of it for you.
Nicolas Cage.
Now that we don't use the five.
Okay, Joseph, the question is. What was the question?
I actually have a question. Who plans on getting the vaccine?
Oh, I want to be brave. and
Okay,
get
the
vaccine.
icebreaker question is though.
Because if I get it and I'm like not wearing a mask ever again, is that okay, or do I need to like wear it today? Lots of uncomfortable stares.
That's a
I didn't know what to say.
It's a great question.
Well,
But I'm just
loaded
wondering
because
if I
it's
get
Either that's my icebreakers. That's the new icebreaker.
because this is school event, you have to wear a mask.
Too political for
because
me.
the School rule is that
I will wear the mask. I'm just wondering if the school is going to change its rule.
we don't know what the school policy is,
We'll see.
and we're just following UVU policy.
Now we're gonna get a warning on our YouTube stream.
The
Just me. Just kidding. Yes, we have our attention.
icebreaker question is.
Everybody uncomfortable.
Okay.
No, it's not.
They're fine,
We don't
Joseph.
know how to answer because we don't know. Currently, as UVU, basically, is the answer.
I'm going to email to Minas.
Okay, do it, please, personally. What were we gonna email
Get that
to
pizza.
Venus about?
Okay, back to the icebreaker question. Thank you.
All about keeping online
Yep.
classes. Okay.
Yep. Good job.
Good job, Lana.
Everyone answer your fear that you want to do. Everyone good?
What?
What?
Everyone
We're talking
answer.
about fears? No.
No, like something you're afraid of that you want to
What
do.
is something you'd want to do that you're afraid of currently?
So I'm afraid of it, but I want to do it.
An example is like skydiving.
Or brain
Maybe
surgery.
get married.
Or getting the
Oh.
Why did you look at Tyler when you said that?
Because he's the closest to doing that.
Wait, but that's actually a really good answer.
Yeah, it is.
Good answer. Good answer.
He's about to go into the abyss.
Oh.
You're going to have like 2 children in 2 years.
Whoa!
Whoa.
2 years.
Prophesying.
Is this a prophet?
Oh.
Joseph the prophet.
Whoa.
2 children.
Lana, I know it's difficult.
2 children in 2 years.
What's difficult?
Probably 12.
I mean, green, you understand.
Oh, I thought you meant having children.
Having
Well,
children
two
is
children in 2 years would be difficult.
Having 2 children in 2 years, that is difficult.
Unless they're twins, then you got it.
I think one thing I want to do, but I'm afraid of, speaking of, having kids.
Oh.
Scary.
Like birthing them or raising them?
Both.
Now I'm looking
Kids,
at abs.
they're
Speaking of
secret. Speaking of birthing,
There's that one.
how you doing, Abby? So good.
Okay, now we're gonna transition into worship. And so if our worship team wants to come up, and then the rest of y'all position yourselves however you want to worship. You can stand, you can sit, you can close your eyes, you can open your eyes, do whatever you would like. And God, I thank you for this time that we get to come together in person finally, and I ask that you just bless this time and just speak through us through worship and through the message tonight. And in your name we pray. Amen.
There's a light that burns in the darkness. Maybe form but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. God I serve knows only how to triumph. My God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. The battle belongs to you, Lord. turning for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, but you turn it for good. Turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, but you turn it for good. Turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, you turn it for good. Turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, you turn it for good. You turn it for good. 'Cause I'm gonna see victory. I'm gonna see victory. For the battle belongs to you. I'm gonna see victory. I'm gonna see victory. The battle belongs to you. I'm gonna see victory. I'm gonna see victory. The battle belongs to you. I'm gonna see victory. I'm gonna see victory. The battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for me, you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Take what the enemy meant for evil, you turn it for good. You turn it for good. So unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. So I'm no longer a slave to fear. have chosen me. Your love has called my name. 'Cause I've been born again to your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
Yes, Mother Lord. Yeah, we're just so grateful that you're so unchangeable, that we can claim our victory because you are a victory. You are the victory. Yeah, that we can claim that you are Father because you first claimed that we are your children. And we're just very grateful for that. And yeah, that we can walk in confidence because you're holding our hands. And yeah, we're just very grateful for that. And Lord, be with us tonight as we fellowship together and as we study your word. Listen, pray, 8. We can all sit now. So now we're going to another form of worship, which is giving. And yeah, our giving for tonight will go to Pay Alpha because, you know, we do Zoom. We buy Zoom. No, we buy Zoom. We pay for Zoom. So we're not that rich to buy Zoom. But yeah, so Zoom the technology things that I don't know. So,
A website.
oh yeah, website. Yeah, and all those things. So,
Prizes for resource.
yeah, prizes. And also for prizes
I haven't gotten new
for
prizes in a long time.
Chi Alpha Got Talent. We're doing that. Yeah, that's really good giving. So make sure to submit your videos. Okay.
Yeah.
So ways to give. Well, the cash apps. Well, we don't pass buckets, so yeah, you go for it. I don't know if we can accept cash, credit card.
We can.
Oh, we can. Yeah.
Stuff. I don't know if we have the bucket out there.
Oh,
There's a box right there.
There's a box.
We can accept it.
yeah.
You find the
We
box, you can put money in it.
we can accept cash. We can accept credit card. Don't give us your credit card. But Cash App, XAUVU, Venmo is changed to XA Utah. So remember that. Okay, now we're gonna go to announcements, which is Tyler.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably too much applause just for announcements. You know, so you can hear me a little bit clear. Squat, yeah. Is this like sized for Danica, or am I allowed to?
No, it's
That's
sized for
size.
Karen. It was sized for
Oh, you got the okay. Awesome. So I can do whatever I want with this. All right. Well, yeah. Welcome to Movement. It is so exciting to finally, after it's been like 4 months or something like that, more maybe. I don't know. What is time? I feel like it's become such a fake concept over the past year. Anyways, but welcome back to Movement in person. And if you're joining us online, if you're on the YouTube stream or however you're tuning in, well, there's some people on the Zoom stream, but they're here in this room too. But welcome to Movement. It's so exciting. So if you are joining in virtually and you're noticing that the stream is a little bit different this week than last week, it is because we're here in person. So if you didn't see that announcement, as long as the state, local, university guidelines remain what they are, this is our plan to be doing Movement here in Orem on State Street on Tuesday nights. So we hope you can join us. But if not, if you can't join us in person, we'll still have virtual options, Zoom and YouTube Live. So however you can join us. But just a reminder that if you are joining us in person, we're following all of the guidelines set forth by the university. So please make sure you bring a mask with you. If not, we will actually have some here. So yeah, but we're excited to have you. Yeah, so our first announcement is, well, I guess now that was the first announcement, but our second announcement is coming up this Friday. I'm very excited. We're doing Chi Alpha's XA's Got Talent. Our first ever, well, I don't know, maybe they had one before I was here. First in my memory of a Chi Alpha talent show. And we're really excited to do that. So we're going to be doing that actually on Zoom so that we can do it with our brothers and sisters at Chi Alpha at University of Utah as well. So check our social media. There's a sign-up form there, and submit your videos of your best, your worst, just anything you want to do, whether you can call it a talent or not. We're gonna
entertain.
Like the goal is entertaining, but yeah, so it'll be really fun. It'll be fun to just kind of. I know out there we've got a talented Chi Alpha, and you might say, well, I'm not talented, and sure you are. There's something I'm sure you can do. So we'll be submitting videos until Thursday the 18th. So I believe it's kind of midnight. The midnight between Thursday and Friday is the cutoff. So check our social media feed. We have the sign up form. I believe has been posted there.
Well,
And
Or-
we can't really link it, so just message us.
Oh, okay. We
Unless
couldn't.
you get on Facebook. I think
we
we'll
could.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So if you need the form and you don't already have it, just message like one of the staff or student leaders, and we can get that form to you. But we're really excited to all hang out on Zoom with our one big Chi Alpha Utah family, and it'll be really fun just seeing what everybody's talents are. Oh yeah, and there are prizes. So if you weren't already motivated to participate, now you should be, because there will be fabulous prizes. I think we have a king's budget of $25 for prizes, so you know it's gonna be wonderful.
That was a big offering tonight.
So, yeah, I'm not gonna make promises on that. But yeah, so Chi Alpha's Got Talent. I should keep this moving. Our next announcement is men's and women's retreats. Soon. It's the weekend of March 26th through March 28th. And we're really, really excited about that. The budget, I believe, for both is going to be about $50, something like that. However, as with kind of everything we do that costs money, we don't want money to be a barrier for you being where you're supposed to be.
Amen.
So all that saying, yeah, it'll be about $50, and if you're able to, please pay that $50. It will help tremendously. But if you aren't, if that number is just kind of too high to swing right now, talk with us. We'll figure out something that works for you. That's right. Yeah, we've got the stimulus checks coming in. I love all the stimulus check memes that have been floating around. So $1,400. I'll go on men's retreat twice. So I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. That was on the cuff attempt at being funny, but it's not working. But men's and women's retreats coming up. The men, we're heading down to Bryce Canyon, and the women are headed to Spring City, which is in Utah. But I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful experience, a wonderful weekend of just.
You're really selling us on that.
Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful, wherever it is, it's going to be a wonderful weekend of just kind of bonding together as core groups and growing closer to God and having a lot of fun in the process. And then our final announcement, just a reminder that we are still doing prayer on Zoom every Thursday at 10 a.m. So if you haven't been joining us, it's been a really wonderful time just kind of come together, staff and students, and just pray. Pray for each other, pray for our ministry, pray for our campus, just pray for whatever God is putting on our hearts. Scripture tells us that there's power when we come together as the body of Christ to pray. So we really encourage you, if you have that space in your schedule, Thursdays at 10 a.m., we're meeting virtually to do staff and student prayer together. So that's it for announcements. Feed one.
You're not feeding one, feed one.
Yes, that's right. Oh, I should have had a slide ready. But Feed One. Yes, as Chi Alpha, we treat missions really seriously. And you've probably heard we have kind of a saying, National Chi Alpha, like our mission slogan is every student goes, which side note, like some of you guys were able to go with us on a virtual trip to Indonesia this previous week, and that was awesome. Every student goes, every student prays, every student welcomes. We welcome the international students and students from other cultures into our Chi Alphas, and every student gives. And part of giving, we are so excited to partner with an organization called Feed One, which just does amazing work in feeding children all over the world in places where it's hard for them to get the food that they need. And Feed One, like what they do is for $10 a month, you're actually able to feed a child for an entire month. And Feed One's like a really great organization in that like everything you give to them goes directly to feeding children. Kind of their salaries and operational costs are fundraised separately. So when you give $10 to Feed One, you're giving $10 worth of food to a child. So it's really, really cool. So with that being said, a lot of you guys are already sponsoring a child. If not, I just really encourage you to think about it, to pray about it. That's something like as a fellowship, we just believe is really, really important, is that we are not just inward focused, but we are generous with our giving. So all right, with that being said, well, I guess like an update. I think we're feeding 17 children a month right now. So that's pretty cool. But I know we can do more. I know we can do more. So if you're not already giving to Feed One, I really encourage you to do that. So with all that being said, with no further announcements or anything like that. I'm really, really excited to welcome up our intern, Danica, with a message.
I know you too. Okay. Goodbye, Mike. I have Mike. Alrighty. Is this live? Hello? I mean, this isn't gonna come through the speakers, cause you guys can hear me. Okay, I'll step back. Demask. Damask. I don't even know if my spit can reach that far. I'll try my best. Okay, but I gotta like mentally wrap my head around that I have to be talking in this, even if we're not, because people in Zoom land and everyone on the internet, hello, can only hear me if I talk in this mic. Wow, this is okay. Anyway, hello everybody. I am Danica, as Tyler introduced me. I'm an intern with Chi Alpha. I'm actually one of the staff at the U's campus, so University of Utah. I live here though, so I'm kind of like in between two worlds a little bit, but yeah. My whole allegiance actually is to my roommates, as we suffered in the time of bats together. So friends who suffer together really stay together. Anyway, so as you can see, we're continuing our sermon series on Revelation called Vision Check. Yeah, and so far I feel like it's been really great. Kind of weird because it's Revelation, but I was kind of thinking, yeah, it's weird, but it's weirdly inspiring and informative at the same time. So, I'm not gonna pull any punches. This next chapter that I'm going over is gonna be more of that, where it's pretty weird. But it's gonna be weirdly inspiring and informative, I feel like. So, yeah. I mean, it's got a dragon, it's got a lady giving birth, it's got battles in heaven, battles on earth, and et cetera, et cetera. You kind of get the picture. Weird. So, yeah, you can go ahead and change the slide. Okay. So, I had all of you kind of tell your stories of when you were brave, or things where, you wanted to have courage to be able to do those things. So, recently, and really recently, as in I feel like I changed my sermon almost last night in the middle of the night, or kind of this morning-ish. Not the whole thing. I added this. But I've been very, very, very interested in skateboarding recently. As in, I'm like this close to buying my own board. Like I've always wanted to learn, and I just never did because I don't know. I guess there was a little bit of fear in me. But what I did do before skateboarding was this dumb looking thing, which I don't know if people remember what this is. Yeah, it's called a ripstick, and I feel like if you couldn't really skateboard, you kind of did this, and I feel like it looks cool, but in my head I felt kind of lame because I was like, I just want to skateboard. But that being said, for some reason I took this up instead. And because I was afraid of skateboards. I don't know why. This seems more dangerous to me, actually, but for some reason skateboarding was scary. Anyway, so me and my friend, a long, long time ago when I was young enough to be dumb enough to do this, yeah, we were at this park called Big Cottonwood Regional Park, I believe is what it's called. And I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's in Salt Lake. And it's that picture right there with the weird looking pavilion. But I can't tell if you can tell in that picture. It's the only one I could find, but that's on top of a hill. And so you kind of have to like walk up the grass. But around the back, there was a road that you can drive a car up so you can load things and unload things, That being said, it was a steep road because it was on a hill. And yeah, probably not as steep as that picture. Probably felt as steep as that picture though. For a little, I don't know, 10-year-old me, something like that. So in skateboarding, they have this thing that they call bombing a hill, which is what is happening in this photo. This man is bombing this hill, and that basically just means you full send down this really steep hill, and you just, I don't know, usually it ends okay, but, a lot of times it ends pretty bad. Hence, I don't know, bombing sounds aggressive and kind of, like, harsh. But with the results, I think it makes sense. That's why I added the thing that said death down there, because people biff it and get injured. Anyway, so again, not as dramatic as that hill. Felt that dramatic, but me and my friend were both ripstick kids, and we were there for some sort of gathering. I don't remember what. I just remember bombing the hill. But so me and my friend Danielle, and I have a different friend Danielle here. Anyway, a different Danielle. So we were kind of like in the back behind the pavilion on the road, and our parents were over doing whatever event was there in the pavilion. We were unsupervised, so we were looking down this hill, and we were like, we can do this. This is fine. We got this. We're so good at this dumb looking thing. And so it was so funny because I remember looking down, and I always remember she was braver than me, my friend Danielle. And I feel like whenever I was with her, she spurred me on to be braver. And so we're looking down this hill, and we're like agreeing. We're like, yeah, we can do this. And then I remember her looking at me going, you can go first. And then I'm dumb, and I was like, yeah, I can go first. And so then I was looking down this hill, and I was like, guess it's fine. Like, it was weird because I think I was afraid, but at the same time, I still went down the hill. Like, I was like, yeah, my legs are shaking a little bit, but we're here. I'm just gonna full send. I didn't even think about, like, I don't know. I feel like you feel the fear physically, but then I didn't think about that. I was afraid, right? I was just like, we're doing it. I'm here. So I bombed the hill, and so I was going real fast. I feel like these have rubber wheels, so I think technically it would go faster than a skateboard. And also, how the heck are you supposed to stop on this thing? I don't even know if I knew when I went down the hill, okay? But anyway, so I'm going down the hill, and I'm going real, real fast. And the road just goes out into like a long, it just goes like, it ends up in like a straight, like long thing. And ideally, if I just stayed on it, and I didn't panic, I think I would have been okay. But for some reason, my thought in my head was, I'm going real fast, and I'm gonna end up really far away. That's gonna get me in trouble because my parents are overprotective, and they're like, you need to stay within vicinity. So I was like, I need to stop right now. And my dumb brain didn't think to just like go into the grass and like tuck and roll, and be safe about it. I was just like, I need to stop now. And so I don't know what I did actually. I think I straight up just like turned really hard and tried to like dig the backs into the ground. It did not work. And I literally was tossed from my board, and I felt like I rolled like 20 times on the pavement and slid for a little bit. And, it's funny because I'm usually very careful. I don't get injured. This is like my only injury ever. And it wasn't even that bad. I have a scar, I think, on my elbow. It's not that noticeable anymore, but there was like huge gash on my elbow, and I think I was on adrenaline. I was in shock. So I didn't even realize I was in pain. And all I remember was lying on the ground, and I like looked up the hill. I saw my friend witnessed me like completely biff it, which I also realized biff it is only in Utah. Anyway, but yeah, completely biff it. And then I watch her as she starts to go down the hill, and I literally yelled, I was like, don't go down the hill. And so she like kind of hopped off, and like, kind of like before she could get rolling, she stopped. Yeah, so after that, I went back to the pavilion, showed my mom my arm. I think that was more terrifying than the hill. And then I didn't feel the pain until I got home and had to wash it. And yeah, that was not fun. But anyway, yeah, so basically I was just talking about that because, yeah, I don't know what it was. This is kind of a bad example because it was like a dumb reason to be courageous. But I wanted to focus more on the fact that I felt that in my heart, that I had courage, that I thought I knew where I was going to end up, and I thought I knew how it was going to turn out. So I was like, I'm fine doing this. I'm full sending because I'm going to be fine. I can skate and I can do all this stuff. But, this is an opposite example because that didn't turn out. But anyway, skaters are really ballsy. So, yeah, it takes guts to do what they do. And, man, I am excited to kind of pick up a new hobby. Anyway, But yeah, skateboarding and injury aside, I feel like let's get into the word, shall we? Yeah, you can go ahead and change the slide, I believe. Yeah, so basically this sermon or message that I'm talking about, I titled The Whole Bible in a Battle, because Revelation 12 is actually detailing this chapter called The Great Battle. And again, I told you, about a woman, about a dragon, about a baby, about a lot of things. But yeah, so which was interesting to me because the whole chapter kind of feels like it takes like a panoramic view of the story of the Bible, and I thought that was cool. So yeah, you can go ahead and change the slide. I'm going to start reading, walking us through this passage. And yeah, Revelation 12 is where we are, and we're reading the whole chapter. And I'm going to go ahead. Oh, my Bible is closed. Did I mark it where I'm supposed to be? I did. Look at me, being ahead. Okay. This thing's also like magnet, so it keeps sticking to the thing, and it's hard to move it. Anyway, okay. The Woman and the Dragon, or also sometimes titled The Great Battle. So, here we are at the beginning of the story. So, a great and wondrous sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his heads. His tail swept. Oh, am I at verse? Yeah, okay. His tail swept. Where am I? His tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung a third of the and it flung what am I? I'm sorry. His tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that he might devour her child the moment it was born. So that's not a pretty picture at all. So yeah, we're getting these characters right. This woman who's pregnant, and then this dragon. I don't know about you guys, but when I hear dragon, my first thought is Smog. Yeah. So you can go ahead and change the slide. That's one Smog, right? He's looking pretty intimidating. Okay, but here we have a dragon with 7 heads. He's blood red, and that sounds scary. So you can go ahead and click. Multiply that by like 7. Is that not terrifying? Yeah. So and that thing is like. Yeah, okay, so, that thing is like staring down this woman who's about to give birth, about to eat her baby. I feel like, okay, with that sort of thing eyeing me or my child for lunch, I too would be afraid. And I'd probably head for the hills. Absolutely no issue with hiding in the wilderness, as we're going to see is the plan here. And yeah, but, I would be afraid. I feel like everybody would be afraid of this. But, this is not really... Oh, I've totally skipped my... Whoops, wrong transition. Anyway, you can change the slide. So, we are talking characters, right? This is kind of an introduction of sorts. And again, we have the woman and we have the dragon. And so who are these characters? I feel like Revelation is always kind of cryptic sounding. So we got to pick it apart a little bit. And I think what's interesting about Revelation is it kind of forces you to go through your Bible and figure out what the heck these symbols mean. So luckily we have some clues, and obviously that spoiled it. The woman is the people of God. But I think, it's really cool the way that Revelation takes some of the imagery from previous parts of the Bible and uses it to paint these crazy pictures, So basically in Genesis 37:9, which you don't have to turn there, but Joseph has a dream that mirrors the imagery that explains what this lady looks like who is pregnant. The deal with the sun, the moon, the 12 stars. This is a dream that Joseph had about his family, which is, the line of Israel is going to come out of here. And so basically the woman represents the people of God. And that's going to make sense because she has a baby, a very important baby. Anyway, and then the dragon, which I think is more obvious. I don't know if we can really misconstrue that at all, but, dragon, serpent, all the same deal. It's Satan. But yeah, so we're looking at these characters, and I think it's interesting because we kind of want to look at, how these characters are kind of being characterized in this passage. And I think the notable one here right now in the first 4 verses is the devil, Satan, is described as this dragon who is about to eat a baby. I think that's the most extreme thing. But yeah, same deal. With that sort of thing eyeing me for lunch and my child, I get the fear. I think we all get the fear. But this is not, this is no ordinary child that is coming out of this woman. And I feel like even if we're fearing right now, I don't think this child was fearing at all. I don't think as this child grew up, I don't think this child was fearing either. I don't think it was the same as like us where we're just seeing this dragon. It's not the same. So you can change the slide. That kind of takes us into moving after the beginning of introducing these characters, taking us all the way back to Genesis. It's really funny because, now we're in the middle rising action. That's going to lead us eventually into a climax. But I'm going to continue to read. Starting from verse 5, I believe, right? Okay. So, okay. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. So I'm going to stop there for 2 seconds. I think this is really interesting and funny because this one verse, verse 5, basically it condenses the life of Jesus, birth to resurrection, birth and ending up back in heaven, into one verse. Which, is funny because it almost feels proportional to the condensing of the Bible narrative into one chapter. But obviously there's no surprises there. This child is Jesus, comes from, born out of God's people and born out of that line. And and I'm going to just continue to read, but yeah, here we have Jesus growing up all the way. The baby was snatched up into heaven, which is kind of like Jesus has made it a way he did not get killed by the dragon as a baby. Which, mind you, I'm going to jump back for a second because I skipped a point, but yeah, the character of Satan here is not friendly dude. Like, he is targeting this baby out of birth because, who does that? But honestly, I feel like Satan, one of the things we have to understand is Satan is not afraid to play dirty and do what he needs to get what he wants in the easiest way possible. And so he's going to attack this person when they're a baby because it's really the only time that, he thinks he'll be able to defeat Jesus, essentially, right? We see this manifested in the Bible through human action. We see Herod, going around killing firstborn sons. And it's just the manifestation of this dragon, right? Of trying to get rid of Jesus early because we need to get rid of him now before things, before it gets hard to do so. But Satan is kind of, he plays dirty and it's not cool. Anyway, I'm going to continue to read starting verse 6. Where am I? So, okay. The woman fled into the desert to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. I need to see where I'm going. Okay. So hold tight on that. I feel like the number, every time you get a specific number in Revelation, it just, you're going to have to do like mental gymnastics to like figure out what this is sometimes. So I'm going to address that later. But here's a characteristic of the woman, which is interesting because it's or not necessarily a characteristic about the woman, but it's more knowledge we get about her, where it says that God has prepared a place for her. So here's our understanding right now. The devil cheats and the woman is protected. The woman has God on her side who is preparing a place to keep her safe. So that's kind of a lot of the most of the characteristics we get of this woman, right? We get that she's the people of God through that symbolism, but other than that, we don't really hear that much about her except for the fact that God is watching over her. Okay, continuing on. If we're good on that. So, now we're going up to heaven And a lot of stuff is going on up there. So, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, spoiler, I guess, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. All right. And then we get this whole declaration from heaven, and it's written differently in the Bible the way it's spaced out because it's suddenly like a speech of sorts, almost a declaration. So that's verse 10 going on. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ, for the accuser of our brothers who accuses them before our God day and night has been hurled down. They came over him by the blood of the Lamb. Oh, thank you. I apologize. I didn't say to switch. Okay, anyway, verse 11. They came over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury, because he knows that his time is short. So, this is kind of a climactic moment. Arguably, arguably like the climax until, Jesus comes back. But, and I kind of highlighted verse 11 here, seeing that we're going to come back to verse 11, because I think verse 11 is actually the most important verse throughout this whole message. And because it takes the whole climax, it takes the reason why this is the climax and condenses it into one verse, where it is completely pointing to Jesus and what he did for us, and then how we respond because of what he did for us. And that's going to come back later when we after we're done reading, we kind of pick it apart, right? Okay, so this is the climax. The tides have turned. We are winning, right? Heaven has won. So yay, the dragon is utterly decimated in heaven in this heavenly battle, but we still have 5 verses left. What is supposed to happen now? The story isn't done yet. There's actually, it feels like, what is a part 2, Electric Boogaloo, if you will. You can go ahead and change the slide. So, yeah, but wait, season 2, suddenly. He wasn't completely decimated. Now he's on Earth. So, yeah, would you look at that? Season 2, it's a new setting. Suddenly he's here with us. Oh no, right? And would you double look at that? Season 2 is actually about us if we read through it. So I'm going to go ahead and read through it right now. Where was I? Man, guys, I'm blind. I need to hold this up to my face. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I know. So, verse 13. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the desert, where she would be taken care of for a time. For a time, times, and half a time. Yeah. Out of the serpent's reach. Confusing. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obey God's commandments and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Alrighty, that's the end of the chapter. Believe it or not, doesn't sound like an ending, does it? So, this is why I say it's about us. Suddenly, the setting is Earth. That's where we live. We're here right now on Earth. Okay, but let's pick this apart a little bit. So let's revisit the woman here, because I think the woman has kind of had an arc under our noses. They didn't explain it all, but last time we were with the woman, she was, God's people. We're thinking Israelites. We're thinking back to Genesis. But she's kind of had an arc of sorts where she's now developed into what we would understand as the church, because that is God's people now, right? So she went through character development. All this stuff happened. Read the Bible, you'll figure it out. But no, yeah. So yes, it is very much a story about us because we are the church, are we not? Okay, So that is established. Now that we know that the woman is supposed to be us, and we are, and that we are actively being pursued by a dragon, let's understand our escape plan and how to, like, deal with this, because that sounds terrible. We need to know what we're supposed to do, right? So, first, let's address this number. I'm going to go back to the number. 1,260 days. In this, they said something like, where was it? Yes, time. Thank you, Angela. Time times and half time. What the heck does that mean, right? So, yeah, I know we've kind of been in, like, English class, it feels like, because we're going through, like, narrative and running through the different things that narrative has. But we're going to go to math for a second. Yeah. I wrote in my notes, wait for them to groan. No, okay, I'm joking. I'm going to cheat for you. 1,260 days equals 3.5 years. And, yeah, so we're thinking, what's so significant about 3.5 years? I had to do research because I didn't know. That's a really specific number. So it turns out back in the book of Daniel, I think just spruced throughout, I think, chapter 7. Not entirely sure on that. But he does prophesy about these 3.5 years of tribulation. So this is a fulfillment of that prophecy. It's, it's looking at what is actually going to happen. Not actually going to happen, but it's more like we're putting numerical values to things, et cetera, et cetera. Even though we know Revelation is super symbolic, like, we're not entirely sure if there's going to be, like, locusts, like Karen talked about, with heads of humans actually going around eating people or anything like that. Hopefully not. That sounds terrifying. But alongside with just the fulfillment of a prophecy that, there's prophets in the Old Testament that talked about this time, and this number comes specifically from that. I think there's also a symbolic significance to this time period, not necessarily the number, but the time period. And I think the way we find that is we think about the context of what's happening here. The woman was instructed to go hide out in the wilderness, the desert. So where else in the Bible do we know that people were out in the wilderness, wandering about? Yes, thank you. So it is when the people of here we go, going back. This is what I'm saying, panoramic view. We're back in Exodus, thinking about the people after they had been delivered from Egypt, and this is post-Egypt, pre-promised land, right? They're wandering in the desert. So, yeah, I think that's the important part here, is it was the time between their deliverance, when they were delivered from Egypt, and them ever stepping foot in the promised land, or the place that God intended them to end up at, right? And so we understand from looking at that, and we apply that to where we are now. So that's where we currently are. We have been delivered. Jesus died for us. That part is done. We're not yet, in new creation. We're not yet in heaven with Jesus. And right now we're in the in-between. But I think what's encouraging about this is that, number one, we see there's a destination and there's a goal we're heading towards, right? We see heaven, we see new creation. We're working towards that. We're walking towards something. We're actually not wandering in the desert, which the Israelites wandered in the desert, but they were also walking towards something, right? And eventually they get there. We can take that and apply that to us. Eventually we're going to get there. We just have to stick out walking in the desert for now, right? All right. Let me see. Yeah, so yeah, we were delivered by the blood of the Lamb. Still making our way, though. We're just not there yet. You can go ahead and click to the next slide. All right. So, we reached the end of the passage, but it didn't really feel like an ending. So, where is it? Where is our series finale, right? Why did this passage end with a non-ending? It kind of ended in the middle of things happening. And it was just like, okay, we're good. Yeah, so let me move down. That's not where I am. Oh, that is not where I am either. Okay, yeah. So, spoiler alert, if anything. I think you could pick it up from what I was talking about, because I said it a lot already. The series finale has not happened yet, because we're in the perpetual state of trying to get there, right? Shouldn't say perpetual. That we're making progress. But yeah, so basically yeah, it just hasn't happened yet. We're in the middle of finishing this story, right? So I actually like that this chapter ends on a non-ending because it serves really well in kind of solidifying this idea that this is a panoramic view of the Bible, of this story. Because when you think about it, the Bible itself also doesn't really like end at the end of the Bible, right? We have this book, and obviously there's a last page and there's a last word in this book. But when you read it, it doesn't really end the story. You know what I mean? And I think that that's cool because, yeah, so the book has ended. Like this physical book, there's a last page. But the story and narrative has not ended, right? We are actually in this story. It continued past the pages. And it is living and breathing with us right now, as we're living and breathing on earth right now. And I mean, that's the kingdom, right? We bring it with us and we continue this story. I think that this is so cool because, originally from conception of this story, it was designed to include all of us in the climax, this second one, and its glorious ending. It was designed so that it doesn't end at the end of this book. It ends when Jesus comes back, and it ends, with us involved. It had us in mind, and I think that that's just amazing, because how long ago was this book written? Probably more than 2 days. Anyway, probably a lot more than 2 days, actually, All right. So now we're kind of at this weird place where we're at the end, but at not an end, sort of. All right. So we made it to as close an ending as we could get so far, right? So what? How does this give us courage? Because, I think my biggest theme that I wanted to get out of this is the story of the Bible gives us courage. If you're going to remember anything tonight, that's what I want you to remember. So, but we just read through this whole thing. Does anyone feel encouraged? I don't know. There was a lot of dragons, and there was a lot of running, and there was a lot of hiding, and and it didn't end. It didn't say, oh, we're good, the dragon is dead, and, I don't know. So how exactly does this give us courage? You can click. Go ahead. All right. So what did we understand from this story? Right? I think this is I told you about verse 11. We're hopping back there because I think that was the most important verse in this passage. So, one of the most important things that I think is supposed to give us courage is that the finishing blow was already delivered. I think that I actually don't remember why Abby said it recently, but she said it recently, where she said we don't fight for victory, we fight from victory, right? So, so the finishing blow was already delivered. We are already victorious. We sang a song about already being victorious. Thank you for picking that song. I did not instruct him to do so. But, we are not fighting a losing battle. We need to etch that into our hearts. We need to etch that into our brains. We need to etch that into everything we do, right? We don't have to go at things thinking that we're going to be defeated. Jesus has come and won everything for us. And we're not worthy of what he did, but he has gifted that to us. And I think that it's kind of a shame sometimes where it's like we go into things and we don't realize like how much we are, that we don't need to be afraid of these things, that the end game is set, There doesn't need to be a fear of, massive failure at the end of it all, which I know for me is extremely paralyzing. But no, Jesus came. He died for us. He won that battle. And that actually has decided the fate of it all, right? We need to go into everything we do, into our daily lives even, into small things, remembering that the final blow was already delivered. Alrighty. And I kind of wanted to also talk about in verse 11. They use some really cool words in there. I really like words, and when a word sticks out, then my brain just like chews and chews at it. So there was one word in here that stuck out to me, and it was shrink. I'm going to read it again. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Or they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Shrink is such a strong word. But also it's weird because I think it's easy to understand what shrinking feels like. I think if you've ever been afraid, you know what shrinking feels like. It feels like you shrink into yourself, right? So, I'm kind of asking this question here. What does fear do to us when we think about it? It makes us shrink. It shrinks us. It makes it so we can't do anything because we've shrunk into ourselves, right? We can't expand out of ourselves because it's like, it's just holding us there. Yeah, and fear just makes us shrink. We shrink back. We shrink back into ourselves. And in this context, they say from death, or they did not shrink from death, which meant they did not have fear, right? But, yeah, and they use it in the sense of death, which sometimes that is applicable, when you're a follower of Jesus. Sometimes it gets to that. We are so blessed in America that it does not get to that. Or, I mean, maybe it does, but in other countries it gets to that. And, I think that their display of courage in those countries where they're very oppressed is just so inspiring, and it's just so incredible. But again, we are just blessed in America. Yeah, but it's not just death that we shrink from. Fear makes us shrink from everything. How many things in our lives, big or small, do we shrink back from because of fear? Right? Time and time again, we catch ourselves paralyzed by fear. Paralyzed is a strong word, but I know everybody who has felt afraid has felt that. I think I have memories of just, I think sometimes I have a hard time approaching people and like talking to them. I think that I can get shy and I can get really nervous and anxious about that kind of thing. And, there have been moments I distinctly remember of like, me thinking like, oh, maybe I should go talk to this person. Maybe I should invite them to something that we're doing, right? Maybe I should do this. My feet will not move. I am paralyzed. Why does it do that to us, right? I shrink into myself. I can't control my feet. It's like, excuse me, autonomy, give me my body back. But I feel like it's so weird because it's like everybody experiences that a little bit, whether it be about social situations or even like other real situations of just like fearing the future. You get stuck where you are because you're afraid of the future. Or, it's like you get stuck where you are just even on like like, okay, here we are. Real danger, physical danger, like I understand. But you know what I mean. Anyway, yeah, but man, it freezes you up. And it's so gross because it's so against your will. Like, you could have everything in you screaming that you want to talk to this person. You can have everything in you telling you that you want to, you're with your friend and you have to say something difficult. And then you want everything in you is like, I just need to say it to this person, whatever. You cannot do it. It robs you of just like control over your own body, over your own thoughts, over your own heart, right? It's so unfair and it's so terrible. And it's obviously not what God has for us on this earth. It's not what he wants for us. So, yeah, but it's cool because the key is right in the story. How do we beat this, right? How do we gain back control of our body? How do we gain back control of our minds? How do we gain back control of our souls, of our hearts when they are frozen stiff from fear? We look to our destination. We're not there yet, but there's something to look at, something to look to. And yeah, it's something that was already won for us. It's there. It's there. You can almost reach out and grab it. Jesus has provided it for you. He is handing it out, right? He is not keeping it secret and he's not pulling it away from us. He wants it for us. Yeah, and it's something, we just look to Jesus, right? We look to his story. We look to the Bible, his story. And we see and remember how he delivers. We see and remember how he protects. We see and remember how he guides us through difficult situations. And that should inspire hope. That unfreezes us suddenly, right? You can change the slide. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So on Sunday, actually, it made me change up my sermon again because it was funny that one of the pastor that was preaching at my church on Sunday also ended up preaching about battles, and and I was like, "Whoa, God, is this supposed to be in this?" I was like, "This sounds like a direct thing," So I kind of wanted to include it here, and it made me something he said. I don't remember exactly, but it made me think of this. It gave me this thought that we're talking about a battle here, a war, and if you pay too much attention to your enemies, which sometimes we do, that's when we freeze, right? When you pay too much attention to your enemies, you breed fear and you breed confusion. I think that, then you get stuck because then you're immobilized. You don't know what to do because you don't know what's going to be the right thing to do. You don't know what's going to be the answer to get you out of here. But if you keep your attention in a war, in any battle, on your commander, or, the plans that he's relayed to his team, then suddenly, instead of breeding fear and confusion, you breed courage, you breed confidence, and you breed clarity. Suddenly you can move because you know what you're doing, right? I just think that I had this thought, too, of, what would we look like? What would our communities look like if we operated in courage, in confidence, in clarity? I don't know. It's a cool thought. I feel like, yeah. Anyway, I was going to talk about skating again, but I don't know if we have time. I guess I'll go into it because I think we're kind of getting near the end here. Yeah, and just to bring it back to skating, as you know, I was kind of watching a bunch of beginner skate videos because I was really obsessed. And one of the most common pieces of advice that I've heard in almost every video is you really have to commit to the trick, to the jump, to the flip, whatever it is you're trying to do. You have to have courage going in. And having courage going in is how you pull anything off, right? You have to believe that you're going to land this. Otherwise, you're probably not going to land it. You have to believe that you're going to achieve your desired result, get to your destination, whatever it may be. Otherwise, you waver and you fall, right? And it's not to guarantee that you're not going to fall all the time. It's just helping you so that you don't fall as much, And I think that is so applicable. If we walk in courage, confidence, and clarity, that propels us. That helps us stick our landings. That helps us get back up if we fall down. And that's exactly what the Bible is giving us. Courage, confidence, clarity. It helps us walk our life. You can change the slide. So again, I think my biggest point here that I want you guys all to remember is, so we look to the Bible. We keep our attention on Jesus and the narrative of his life. The story of the Bible gives us courage. And then we use that courage to walk our lives, right? To walk and to do our best in partner with this, to not stumble, to not fall, to not waver. So suddenly you're walking with courage. Suddenly you realize I can talk to this person. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I can talk to them. I have courage. You could get this bigger picture. You can suddenly make that phone call that you're anxious about to your doctor because your mom always calls the doctor for you. You can take charge of that project. You can start whatever it is you were too scared to start. Because we are winners. At the end of the day, we are marching towards victory. It's guaranteed, So, God sent Jesus to claim the victory so we can live a life on this earth fully realized through him. And, that's just amazing. He didn't have to do that, but he did. And it's just such a testament of his love. So, I think we're going to kind of take this in for a landing. And I want to give all of us space to process this with God. Nick, if you could come back up. And I don't know if we're going to fully sing the song. I think just having stuff in the background and, I don't know, if people feel led to just start singing. I'm not going to stop you. So for the rest of the time, I guess that we're just together here, let's just meet with Jesus and let's try to leave here walking confidently, right? I think that's what I want out of this. I think that's what Jesus wants out of you, right? Is to walk this life confidently with him. He wants us to walk with courage. And that propels us, that keeps us going. Yeah, so let's leave here confidently, walking with biblical courage in our hearts. So I kind of wanted people to just respond like, you know, I kind of wanted it to be individual because I know some of these things. I feel like when we talk about our fears, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to own up or to even let those words leave your mouth with some of these deeper fears that you have, with some of these things that literally paralyze you, right? God doesn't want you to live like that, you know? And it sucks so bad that it's just really common. It's easy to be paralyzed by fear. So I wanted you guys, as we move into response time, to, with the earlier questions too, to think about a time where, you know, you were brave. If you didn't really think of anything, that's fine. That's completely fine. But I just wanted for people who kind of remember what it feels like to have a moment of being brave, I want you guys to know that God wants to solidify that feeling of being brave deep in our hearts. He doesn't want us to walk timidly. He wants us to walk with courage, right? So, and also, now, I want you to think about things that you said you wish you were brave enough to do. It could be small things, big things. But now that you're kind of in an individual processing space, I kind of want you to go deep with it. I want you to think about what are these things that hold you hostage, that freak you out, that make it so you cannot even move your own legs. You know, you can't even control your own mouth anymore. It's just frozen. Yeah, just think about the things you say you wish you were brave enough to say or do. You know, think about some of the other fears that you didn't want to share. And yeah, I think in this time, just think about what it would look like if you operated in the courage of an already victorious man or woman of Christ. Think about what it looks like for Jesus to encourage your heart. Think about what it looks like to go into these situations knowing that Jesus is lighting your heart on fire and he's making you brave. That the story of the Bible is making you brave. So yeah, it doesn't mean that we're never going to fall again. We stumble and we fall and we lose some battles. That's just happens. We lose them here and there, but our victory is secure. And that's a fact. So that is what the story of the Bible tells us. So let that be your courage. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys space to just respond, and I'll come back in a little bit and just pray us out. But yeah, so go ahead. Yeah. Jesus, I just pray that, God, I pray you just make us brave. I pray that you help us just take steps towards things that we would have never even thought we could have taken steps towards before. God, I pray that suddenly these things that we just thought were impossible for us, it was just never going to happen. I'm never going to be this. I'm never going to outrun this. I'm never going to insert whatever here. God, you just make things possible. When we walk alongside you, you make things possible. You make us brave. Your story makes us brave. And Jesus, I just pray that, whatever it may be, it could be a small thing, it could be a huge thing. It could be something that's seemingly insurmountable, that we never even considered to try to fight it. We never even considered to do anything about it because it was just so unreachable. God, I pray that you inspire our hearts, that suddenly these things don't look so intimidating, that these things don't look so gigantic, that we know that we're walking with you. We know that you are in our hearts. We know that we are victorious. So it doesn't matter what things look like down here. We're on our way. We're on our way to just everything you have in store for us, to new creation, to just being with you eternally. Lord, we are on our way. Let us walk like we're on our way to that. And God, I just pray that, I know it gets hard in the nitty-gritty. I know it's easy to think really lofty thoughts right now and to just sometimes even get caught up in the moment. But I pray, Jesus, as we go into this next week, even in moments where we're by ourselves, where we're overcome with fear again and again and again, I pray that you just light our hearts on fire with courage, even in those moments when we're by ourselves, when our feet are frozen, when our mouths are glued shut for some reason. God, I pray that you just inspire our courage so we stick our landings, so that we get back up again even if we fall. And Jesus, I just pray that that the fire in our hearts, that drive, that courage, that it just kindles in our hearts, and we learn what it feels like to walk, for that to become normal for us. And I know, Lord, that it's not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather it's just how we go about ourselves amidst that fear. And God, I pray that we understand that you speak into us. Just give us commands. Help us understand how to go about these fears, Lord. We love you so much, and we trust you. We trust you with our fears and our anxieties. Yeah. In your precious name, amen. All righty. Wow, look at that! Making good time. All right, I don't know what you do next. Even though, oh, bye.